Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and if you watched my Airhammer loadout last week, it was primarily focused on an anti-infantry role, specifically providing close-range support for your ground troops. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'll put up a link in the outro so you can actually go see it after this video. Now, the overall idea was that you were going to keep enemy infantry away from the point, or clear off a point, so your troops can really push up and take it. It was overall designed with a combined arms approach in mind, and really trying to help out with attacking and defending a capture point. Now, the real key to that build was having the anti-infantry nose gun, and that for the Reaver and that previous build was the Airhammer, and we combined that with the scout radar to really help find and eliminate the enemy. So the more that I've been playing with that setup, the more effective I've really found it, which was kind of surprising. It was fun at first, but it's turning into a really effective setup. Now, that being said, the times when you can really get on a roll with that setup are when you have other friendly air in your area. Now, in general, I would say that's pretty standard logic, really. You know, you do better in the air when there's more friendly air up. But especially for these builds, when we're talking about anti-infantry overall, it's really going to highlight the need to have other air. So pick your battles carefully. So in the comments, I had some people asking if I had similar builds set up for both the TR and the VS. So I really went in and I started playing with both the Banshee and the light PPA. Now, I kept the rest of the build the same, you know, using external afterburner tanks, scout radar, nanite auto repair, and I've been using the hover airframe. Now, on the nose guns, I've been running thermal, so you can spot your targets a little bit better, increased magazine size, and increased the overall ammo pool. Now, before I really talk about these, it is worth noting that my Reaver has more upgrades. It's further upgraded than my Scythe or my Mosquito, and that's purely just based on the certs that I had available, considering that my NC is my main character. Now, things like my, rotary for the Mosquito and the turbo laser, those are significantly more upgraded because I use those a lot more standard. But these anti-infantry ones are things that I haven't really used that frequently. At least I had them unlocked, but I didn't put a lot of certs into them. So let's go ahead and just jump into the bottom line question. And with the same build using the AI variants, is it effective? And the short answer is, for its designated role, yes, it actually is very effective. Now, there's going to be some key differences that are important to note. And the first of which is that the Airhammer is by far the most effective outside of this intended role of this build. Now, the Airhammer is a capable dogfighting weapon. And in the build, that's what we had on it with the Reaver, because you can actually close the gap, and it does significant damage to enemy air. It's effective against enemy ESFs, but it does a ton of damage to larger targets like Liberators, because you've got a better shot at landing all of your pellets. The Banshee on the Mosquito is pretty capable overall, and it's going to give you a decent ability to land your shots. The AA nose gun, the M18 rotary, shoots about 1,000 RPM and has a muzzle velocity of 650 meters per second. And that's going to come with a max damage of 200 and a minimum damage of 143. The Banshee, on the other hand, has an RPM of 800, a muzzle speed of 500 meters per second, and a damage of 150. So basically what this means is that when we look at this, if you're in an AA engagement, you're bringing a slower firing, slower traveling bullet that does less damage at range than its counterpart. Now, if you combine that with the fact that it's got a smaller magazine size and an ammo pool that's less than the rotary, you're really losing a lot of effectiveness overall. Now, the Banshee's kind of a half-assed decent option against air. When I say that, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. Basically, you're not going to be totally screwed using the Banshee, but you're going to have a pretty uphill battle overall. Now, when it comes to the Scythe and comparing the turbo laser to the light PPA, it's not even close. The one benefit the light PPA has is that it does a significant amount of direct hit damage. So let's say you can sneak up behind a Reaver or a Mosquito, and that aircraft maybe is looking at the map or maybe taking a sip of their beer or whatever, and you can get some shots on them. You're going to get some decent damage happening. But, I mean, that's really going to be pretty limited. And if they break off or start to invade, or worst case scenario for you is start to engage you, you can pretty much just forget about it. So unless you're playing with this non-stop and you know exactly how much you need to lead your target at every range and you're just some light PPA guru, the really slow velocity of the orb is going to make you next to useless in anti-air situations. Now, it is worth noting that the Airhammer is obviously significantly different than the Vortek Rotary. You know, the reason it retains its effectiveness in a dogfight better than the other faction's anti-infantry options is that the bullet spread, the pellets, allow you to land more shots. It's not as reliant on overall accuracy, and it carries more damage potential overall. You know, the other factions just don't have that same benefit when you're talking about that anti-infantry gun in a dogfight situation. Now, before we get into the "oh no, NC is overpowered" complaints or whatever, just please remember that we don't necessarily want 100% symmetry overall. Because that's when the game gets kind of bland, and you know, we're all out here crying for more Empire-specific stuff overall. And please don't take this as me being an NC primary player saying that NC should say the best, because frankly, for this build and the purpose of it, I don't even find the Airhammer to be the best option when engaging infantry anyways. So let's go ahead and circle back to where this all started, and that's the designated purpose of this build. An anti-infantry role to support the troops on the ground. Now, even without the maxed magazine sizes for either the Scythe or Mosquito, the PPA and the Banshee are extremely potent in these roles. Now, while I like the versatility overall of the Airhammer better, the magazine sizes, the splash damage, the rate of fire, etc., all of those things on the PPA and the Banshee really do make them ideal for protecting or attacking a capture point. Now, I also find that the kind of innate natural hoverability of the Scythe makes its agility really nice for kind of circling around and engaging the ground targets, not to mention really just finding areas where you can tuck behind obstacles for cover. Now, the one thing that I noticed when playing the Scythe, though, is that with its lower speed overall, it's a lot harder to outrun lock-ons. You know, there's been several times where I felt where I was locked on at a decent range, you know, significantly further away. You know, I hit the afterburner and really got out of there, and I was still blasted with the lock-on. Now, the Reaver comes with improved afterburner speed, and the Mosquito has natural speed built into it, and I feel they're a lot more resistant to the lock-ons. You can get away from them and avoid them a little bit better. So, something I would need to play around with a little bit more would be replacing the radar with either flares or fire suppression on the Scythe, just to get you a little bit more longevity. But the problem is you're losing out on the radar, which really kind of limits the effectiveness of your support to the ground troops. So if you're playing with a squad, maybe you can counteract that with somebody throwing on a scout flash and parking it somewhere in the area. Might balance that out a little bit, but it's going to be hard to always count on somebody being able to do that. Not to mention the flashes are easily destroyed, especially when they're not moving. So it's kind of a give or take, and I'm not really sure where I land on that. I still think I like the idea of keeping the radar on, but I need to play with it a little bit more. And if you've got an opinion on that, please let me know. So the bottom line here is this. If you have friendly air in the area, both the Mosquito and the Scythe really excel in these roles and with this build. You know, now keep in mind, increasing the magazine size is an extremely expensive endeavor. And I've really only upgraded them 1 or 2 slots at the time of making these videos. So the overall effectiveness as you continue to increase these AI weapons is only going to increase. You know, and I would probably even go as far to say that the Reaver with the Airhammer is a better build overall, just based on versatility. However, for the design purpose of this build, the Scythe and the Mosquito's anti-infantry weapons make them better suited overall. Now, keep in mind, you can get into dogfights with the Banshee, but I would avoid it at all costs. The Scythe, I wouldn't even bother. I'd just get the hell out of there. So it's good to know where your nearest location is that has AA support, maybe either a Skyguard sitting around there, maybe a Burster Max, or you know, a Sunderer with even something like you know, walkers on it, whatever. You know, maybe make sure that you have a wingman, or just be prepared to get the hell out of there. Either way, whatever it is, having an escape plan ahead of time is going to be a very smart decision, regardless of the faction, when you're using this build. So I'm going to continue to do some more testing, and I'll try to come up with new builds and setups for us to try and use. If you have something you like, or just flat out something wacky you want someone else to try instead of you, let me know, and I'll give it a shot, make a video on it, and maybe you can all laugh at me. So either way, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for a whole lot more coming up, and take care.